Hey everybody, mel0n here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing an unboxing and first impressions of one of the most unique products I think I've seen in the peripheral space to this date. Today we're going to be taking a look at the DELTAHUB Carpio 2.0 and G2.0. Now this is essentially like a keyboard wrist rest for your mouse on mouse skates, if that makes sense. These are just obviously ergonomically designed wrist rests that are designed to seamlessly meld into your setup to provide ergonomic support for your wrist, as well as prevent strain issues and fatigue issues over on your wrist over long-term use. Now, what really caught my eye with this product is the Carpio's potential to potentially replace the need for arm sleeves, as well as also allow people to use grip styles on some mice that they can't normally use. Personally speaking, with my very large 7.5 by 5 inch hands, I just can't use tiny fingertip mice because I get really bad strain issues on my hands and my wrist, and it just ruins my hands for weeks. So that's why I don't really cover them on the channel that much. However, with the Carpio, I'm hoping I can actually use this as kind of a brace or a support, if that makes sense, to allow me to actually use fingertip mice. So that was my key interest in the product. There's a lot of other really cool benefits to the product, which we'll talk about a lot more in the full review, but I'm really interested to see how this works as like a substitute or like an added part of your setup to allow you to use grip styles and different mice you normally can't use. So there'll be a lot I'm going to cover in the full review. Today's is going to be a brief unboxing and first impressions, but this product looks very, very interesting, so I'm excited to tell you guys all about it. Now, before we get into it, I did want to say a big thank you to DELTAHUB for sending both the Carpios out for review. I greatly appreciate it. As always, everything you see on this channel, regardless of a free or discounted unit, I'm going to be 100% unbiased, and I'll tell you the truth about everything. Weird ergonomic wrist rests included in that as well. All right, let's get right into it. Let's start off with the regular version of the Carpio, the 2.0. Alrighty, so first off, we have the Carpio 2.0. Now, this is the office work general use optimized version. This retails for $49 Canadian, around $37 USD. Now, the Carpio 2.0 is available in both the right and left-handed versions. There is a small and a large version. I have the large version today, and there is a couple colors available for this one. This is available in black, white, and gray. Now, today I'm going to be boxing the black right-handed version, as I am a right-handed player, so we're going to be looking at that one today. Now, the Carpio 2.0 comes in this really cool little box here that has a really cool unboxing. So what you do is if you grab the box from the sides here and then you pull this little tab in the front, the entire box flips open like this, which is really cool. I'm a sucker for cool unboxing experiences like this, so I love this. This is really cool to see. So up at the top, we have a little instruction thing. It tells you, hey, this is how you use it. It says it's going to take 1 to 2 weeks for you to get used to the product, which makes sense given it's a wrist rest. That's going to change how you use your mouse a lot, so that makes sense there. It also does have a handy little QR code telling you how to use it, which is really nice to see. And then in the bottom, we have the Carpio 2.0 itself right here. So as I mentioned before, this is basically just a wrist rest, but on skates, as you can see on the bottom here. However, it's ergonomically designed to sit in your hand just like this. So basically what you do is you just kind of sit your hand over top of it like this, and it glides across your table like this. Now, the pads here are made out of silicone. They do have a nice, pretty good texture to them. They are quite thin towards the bottom, so you can actually kind of push through them a little bit, and they are removable as well, which is really nice to see. Now, one thing that's really cool that I love to see about the Carpios is that DELTAHUB does actually sell replacement parts for these pads. I don't know if they sell replacement skates. I'll have to confirm that for the full review. I believe having these replaceable is really cool to see. Now, grabbing my Keychron M2, basically what happens here is that instead of my grip being like this, where the base of my wrist is kind of sitting on my desk, the Carpio just kind of sits in the middle of that and kind of raises it up a little bit, so my grip is a little more elevated right here. Now, this definitely does feel a little strange because I'm very much used to the base of my wrist sitting against the desk while I move around, and having that not there is definitely a bit of a shock. I definitely understand why they say it takes 1 to 2 weeks to get used to it, because this is definitely a very unique feeling that I definitely have not experienced before, but it does feel very comfortable. I'll have to see, of course, how it holds out over long-term use, but it is quite interesting in how it feels. Now, as I mentioned before, my primary interest with this was seeing if I can use different grips on this one. Now, for palm grip, I can see this working to an extent. The only trick is that you have to make sure your mouse doesn't extend past like the middle of your palm here, or else it starts to hit the Carpio. For claw grip, it's fine. For fingertip, it's definitely ideal because it's very far away. Now, the problem for me is that when I used to fingertip mice, I would hold them like this and I would get really bad strain issues right here, and I'd get them along my fingers just from having to do it like this and kind of having to anchor my hand and tense so much like this. However, with the Carpio, I can kind of just naturally rest here, and I don't have to tense my hand as much because my hand is resting on the Carpio, not on the desk. So it's definitely a bit of a different feel for sure. I'll have to see how it feels in terms of like long-term performance, but it definitely does make fingertip gripping mice much more comfortable for bigger hands like myself. Now, the one thing I will say so far that I do notice right off the bat with the Carpios is that I do feel like I constantly have to readjust the positioning of the Carpio on my hand just because I'm not used to it. I keep having to like shift it around to find a good spot for it to hold. Now, I'm sure that's going to go away over time as I get more used to it. But that's like the only downside I've noticed so far, just because it's kind of awkward because I'm not used to it. All right, well, that's pretty much everything I have to say about the Carpio 2.0. It's definitely a very unique piece of tech. Let's go ahead and talk about the G2.0 next. All right, so here we have the Carpio G2.0. Now this does have this really cool kind of holographic glitch effect on the top of it, which looks really cool. Again, this is the gaming version, so I'm expecting them to have a little bit more of a flashier packaging. Now the packaging is pretty much essentially the same things up at the top telling you how to use it, the link to the QR code, and of course where to position on your hand. And then down below we have the Carpio 2.0 here. We have the same DELTAHUB branded carrying case, feels really good as well. And we also have another DELTAHUB sticker on the bottom here, which is nice to see. Now, the biggest difference between the original Carpio and the Carpio 2.0 is going to be that this one has a little strap on here. Now, this strap is designed to keep the Carpio on your hand while you're using it, where the Carpio 2.0, you're just basically picking it up and putting it back on. You're kind of replacing yourself on it every time you move. This one's designed to stay on your hand. On top of that, the silicone pads have also been changed to these kind of aerated ones to allow moisture to kind of wick through the bottom as well. Now, just like we saw with the Carpio 2.0, these pads are removable as well, which is really cool to see. Now, I didn't see pads for the G2.0 of the Carpio on the website for replacement. I only saw the pads for the 2.0. So I'll have to confirm if you can replace these ones with proper aerated ones, because I do like to feel the aerated ones more, but I'll confirm that for the full review. Now, I did want to quickly highlight something here, is these skates here are very, very interesting. Now, the Carpio 2.0 has the same skates as the G2.0, but the really cool thing about these skates is that they have these little arches in them all the way around. Now, what this does is this is to cut down the surface area to make them feel a little faster. If they didn't have these ridges, they would be a lot more controlled. However, these little ridges do help with the kind of lowering the surface area and make them feel a little more seamless, which is nice to see. It'll be interesting to see how these compare to regular like mouse skates. Like I have my Wiseowl Cloud here with the X-Ray Pad Donut skates. It'll be interesting to see what the speed difference is between these, because that's one of the first things I was kind of concerned about with the G2.0, is that if these skates are too high surface area or they're too slow, you may have this kind of disconnect where the mouse is very fast, but then the Carpio itself is very slow. But I'll have to see how that feels over testing. Now I'm going to go ahead and install this here. So basically you just place it here and you just wrap this around. Now, one really nice thing to see is that the little strap here on the Carpio 2.0 is magnetic, and it is actually a very strong magnetic attachment. It doesn't come loose at all, which is really nice to see. So that's why the Carpio G2.0 is the more gaming optimized one, because it sticks to your hand while you're moving around. So if you readjust your mouse, you don't have to bring the Carpio with you. It's a lot more natural. And on top of that, it does have the aerated silicone pads to kind of give you a little more airflow down there so sweat doesn't build up and make it slippery. Alrighty, so I went ahead and I did a couple runs of Kovacs on Kovacs intro scenario and jump tracking with the G2.0 just to see how it feels. And I will say it did feel pretty much seamless. However, it was just very odd because the way I was just using my Keychron M2 as my primary mouse for this with the X-Ray Pad Jade skates on it. And weirdly enough, when I was using claw grip, what I found is that the point of contact was more on my wrist than it was on the mouse itself. I didn't really feel the mouse so much. Same with fingertip grip, but it was more exaggerated, where I felt like I was controlling the mouse more with the base of my wrist and the Carpio G2.0 more than the mouse itself, which is a very odd feeling. I do like it. The only thing is that with the skates on here, there is some inconsistencies because they are a little slow, especially here on my Shogun. So they are, but again, the Shogun is a bit of a softer pad, so that may not be the use case across the entire thing. It's definitely a very weird experience because instead of feeling the mouse as your primary point of contact, you feel the Carpio. So it's very odd. It's definitely going to take me some time to get used to. I will say it did feel really nice because, again, for someone who primarily claw grips, not having that kind of drag from your wrist on the mouse pad did make my reactions a lot faster. It did make micro corrections a lot more difficult though, because I'm used to that extra control from this, which was kind of different. Again, it'll be very interesting to see how these skates hold up over time and how they work on different kinds of glass pads like ceramic, glass, fabric, speed, hybrid. I'm sure there'll be some variances in how they work on that. So it'll be interesting to see how these hold up over time. It definitely does make a difference right off the top. Like I can comfortably fingertip my Keychron M2 without any strain, at least of right now, which is really good because normally I get strained like almost right away whenever I try to fingertip anything. For my review, I think I'm going to go ahead and break out my old X2 V2 Mini and see if I can use that with fingertip grip, because I initially tried that with fingertip grip and I messed up my hand pretty bad for a couple weeks. I'm wondering if the Carpio can avoid that. So it'll be really interesting to see how this holds up over time. There's a lot of questions I have with how this is going to work, because again, this is a very different way of aiming because you're not aiming with the mouse anymore. You're more aiming with your wrist, which is really weird. Now, another thing I thought about is that the Carpios would also be really cool for people who use glass pads but don't like arm sleeves, because the big issue with glass pads is that your hand will stick to the surface of the pad. But with the Carpios, you can avoid that and avoid the base of your wrist kind of sticking to the pad, where previously the only way to avoid that was to use like an arm sleeve or a palm sleeve. So there's a lot of really cool potential use cases for the Carpios here. It's definitely going to take me some time to do some testing on how these are going to work and how these are going going to affect my aim. I definitely want to look into the ergonomic benefits as well, but I'm really interested in the aim benefits because I really want to see if these are going to make a big difference. So there's a lot to cover here, but I'll talk about all that more in my full review in a couple weeks. All right, well, that is pretty much everything for my unboxing and first impressions of the Carpio G2.0 and Carpio 2.0. But these are definitely very, very unique products and very interesting products. I'm very excited to see how they hold out over testing. So stay tuned for a full review on both the Carpio 2.0 and the G2.0 coming in a couple weeks. I may do separate videos. I may do them in one video. We'll see how the testing goes, but I'll have a much more in-depth dive on how this affects your aim, how you can utilize this to make your aim better, and all the benefits of the ergonomics and that kind of stuff as well in a couple weeks. But that's gonna be everything for today. Thank you again to DELTAHUB for sending these out for me to take a look at. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the full review of the Carpio 2.0 and G2.0 in a couple weeks. Peace.